Have you ever struggled with addiction or been close to folks who have? It's not an easy thing, right? That is one of the trickiest, most baffling aspects of human nature, and not just in other people. It's horrifying when you run into it in yourself. And look, I know that when I say addiction, our brains all go to the really big, scandalous ones, the addictions that have names. But even if you've never struggled with that kind of an addiction, you've probably struggled with some sort of cycle of thought or action that you struggle to break, that you're ashamed of, that it becomes a metaphor for your life being out of control and you not being able to pull it together and handle things. Because there are tons of addictions, maybe that's too strong a word, but cycles of thought and action that don't have names and that aren't all that scandalous, and that if you told many people about it, they'd be like, okay, whatever, you're addicted to that. Okay, you can call that an addiction if you want, but I wish I was addicted to that. And they would make light of it. But you know what I'm talking about, right? There have been things in your life, I guarantee it, that you looked at that thing, whether it's invisible in your brain or physical, something harmless to most people that you drink or eat, whatever, and gets out of control. There's been something in your life where you've realized, dang, this isn't good for me. It might even be totally socially permissible, but this is not good for me. It's hurting me. It's hurting people I care about. And maybe nobody sees it, and maybe nobody's put their finger on it even yet, but I am. Dang, I'm going to stop that. And then you go to stop it, and it works for a while. And you're like, there, yeah, I thought I could just quit that cold turkey. No big deal. I just don't think like that anymore. I just don't act like that anymore. No problem. But then usually there's some sort of event that causes a justification, and you start to view that thing that you tried to put to death a while back in your life as now more of an occasional reward or sort of a stress release thing. And you're going to handle it this time around. But then when you come back to it, it's actually worse than it was the first time around. And that's when the panic starts to set in. And you're like, whoa, I might not have this on a leash. And now this has gone from something that was like a little self-improvement project to realizing I might actually be out of control. Even if this thing is seemingly inconsequential in the minds of most people, it's now not inconsequential to you, because you couldn't turn the thing off. And now you have this weird relationship with this pattern of thought or action that really is becoming bigger than your will, bigger than your self-control. And it freaks you out a little bit. And maybe it goes so far as to even get you to a place where it really actually ends up doing damage. There's an incident and you hurt people you care about badly. You damage yourself badly or sabotage your own ambitions or things that you're trying to do that are even good. And it starts to displace and take the place of good things. And you start to think about your silly little thing in your spare thoughts and in your spare time. And you start to even kind of hide it from people you know. And you realize, whoa, I have a problem. Me. What the heck? Well, you're in good company. Because I think what you're talking about there, I mean, the clinical name is addiction or addictive thought, or there's probably lots of other clinical names depending on the degree of severity as well. But the Bible name for that is sin nature. It's human nature. It's the fallenness of humanity that you're running into right there. You're supposed to read the whole Old Testament and come away going, dang, I relate to that because I got stuff that I struggle to shake as well. I can't get out of my own way. And in the Old Testament, what we really get are 5, 6, 7, 8 different movements, or how can I put this? Constructive proposals for how to solve the problem that I just described. That thing where seemingly decent enough people do destructive things and can't seem to knock it off or get out of their own way. I mean, we tried early on in the Old Testament, just purge the whole thing. Just wipe out all the bad people with a flood, and then the next round of people, they'll be better. Nope. 2 seconds after they get off the boat, they're already just like they were before the flood, doing weird, gross stuff. No, that's not going to fix it. Well, okay, let's just make it so that we can't conspire so much. The problem is too much knowledge. just confound the languages, separate everybody out, and then that should solve it. Because people, they're noble and innocent, left to their own ends. And if they just go off and they live nomadic, tribal lives in small groups, they won't think of naughty things to do. And that should fix it. Just make everybody naiver and dumber. So God confounds the languages of the people at the Tower of Babel. But that doesn't solve things. Nope. That human nature is still there. That addictive, can't get out of our own way, keep relentlessly choosing the lie and the destructive stuff thing seems to be hardwired into people. Well, let's just try massive freedom then. I mean, let's get people out from under the yoke of slavery. Slavery and economic oppression breeds evil. We'll just have a big justice movement, and then people will behave better. There, now all the slaves are freed miraculously. They'll be grateful for their freedom. And when oppression and injustice and inequality are defeated, morality will skyrocket and the human problem will be solved. Nope. People crossed the Red Sea. They got free from slavery. It was fully in the rearview mirror, and they went right back to the same problems. They took the problems with them. They didn't get washed off as the people walked between the waters of potential change across the Red Sea. Nope, it was still there. Well, you might think, let's just try total liberty then. Maybe the problem is all these social constructs and societal stuff. That's why people get addicted to stuff and have these bad patterns of behavior. What if we just did a thing where everybody does what's right in their own eyes, and instead of having these oppressive moral standards that make people feel anxiety and self-loathing, we'll just have people do their own morality however they want. And with that moral, ethical freedom, you take guilt off of people's shoulders. Everybody can do what's right in their own eyes. And finally, we can have happiness and there just won't be evil anymore. Well, that's what the whole book of Judges is about. And that doesn't work either. Okay, so total freedom, that's not going to do it. We're going to solve the human problem instead and defeat the bad behavior of people by having a strong central government that makes tons of laws and has the power to conscript your young men and make them go and fight wars for them. But this government is going to need to be funded, so we're going to have to take a significant portion of everyone's income to fund the throne and fund the unending wars with our neighbors. And then the king is going to hand down the law. He is the law, and he will make people behave the right way. And with strong central planning, we can solve the human problem and make the human heart better. We'll make everything equitable. It's going to be great, but it's not great. That is immediately catastrophic. The first king can't even get it right. Saul ends up being a disaster after a promising start. Even the best king, the beloved king, the one with a heart after God's heart, is also a disaster for a huge part of his reign. And then the monarchy can't survive the next generation as it fragments into a lust for power, disgusting power grabs, horrible sexual violence, as well as a new strain of economic oppression that comes out of this strong central authority. Well, then you think maybe we'll just defeat the human problem by having a playground fight and having the main human characters just get their teeth kicked in by somebody bigger and badder and more powerful. That should humble them. We'll have the Assyrians do it, and that happens in 732 BC, but that doesn't really fix anything. Well, we'll just have the main human characters get their butts kicked on the playground again by a new bully. This time it'll be Nebuchadnezzar and the Babylonians in 586 BC. Nah, that doesn't really do it. It just makes them mad and want to fight the bully more, but it doesn't fix what's wrong with the human heart, the human problem. Well, we'll just have a new overlord come along. We'll have the Persians do it, and they'll be a nice bully, and you can kind of sit at the bully's lunch table and run with this bully. Maybe that'll make things better, but that hasn't really made things better either. Yeah, and then we try another solution in the book of Esther, which is, okay, well, maybe our problem is our jerk enemies who are just always trying to nip at our heels, and they're trying to kill us, so we'll just defeat them. And maybe once all the people who hate us are just gone in one grand purge that they had coming, maybe then that'll solve things and our hearts will finally be right. But even after the purge of the people who wanted to kill the Jews by Queen Esther during the reign of Xerxes, no, that doesn't fix the human heart either. None of these external things seem to fix the human heart. It looks like we've exhausted pretty much every option by the time we get to Nehemiah 9 in the Old Testament. And what we've discovered is the human heart having deep, abiding problems that you and I still deal with to this day is internal. It's endemic to the human heart. It isn't a product of circumstances external to ourselves, first and foremost. We can drop the human heart into any kind of environment, and we're going to struggle with these things. And we also have the capacity for nobility. We see splashes of that throughout the Old Testament. I see good and redemptive things in my own life as well. But that thing that is wrong about the human heart, it's there. And apparently only God is going to be able to cure that. So as we read through the Old Testament, what we see is basically a collective cycle of sinful, addictive, habitual behavior. We see that this ancient people group, the descendants of Abraham, are collectively pretty much just like us. And individually, they're pretty much just like us. People with level heads will look back at our moment in society and be absolutely baffled as to how we could be so morally flawed on a handful of issues. And future generations after those who come in the future and judge us will judge them, and so on and so forth. We are them, they are us. The human problem is a real problem. We see it in microcosmic scales in our own secret, quiet addictions and destructive, sinful habits. We see it in clear relief in the big, flame-out, addictive, destructive, sinful habits of other people we know who aren't sophisticated enough to hide it or are too far down the rabbit hole of addiction to hide it. And we see it collectively very clearly in other people groups from other times. But the truth is, this problem is all of our problem. And the next chunk of stuff that we're going to read about in this big collective prayer of Nehemiah chapter 9 is this group of people trying to figure out how to break that cycle. How do you get out of it? Even as an individual, how do you break the cycle of willful, addictive, habitual sin? I think we're going to find something really insightful in what comes next in this big picture prayer. If you are listening to this in real time, this is a Friday episode. And I think our mailing will be done over the weekend and ready to go out to everybody who supports the program at any level, on any platform, for the Galatians notebook that we're sending out to all of you as a thank you, as well as the Achievement Unlocked commemorative Now You Got Nehemiah in Your Hip Pocket sticker that I'm very proud of and very excited to share with you. For those of you who are coming in here at the last minute, we may need to do an additional little catch-up mailing in the coming week to make sure that we get you in on this as well. I know not everybody listens quite in real time, so I'll be accommodating of that as much as possible as well, because the point here is not to be the biggest stickler possible. The point is that I'm grateful to you, and if you're supporting the program, I want to send you this stuff. So thank you again so much for being a part of this thing, and I am really excited to unpack what's next in Nehemiah chapter 9. All right, I'm Matt. This is the 10-Minute Bible Hour podcast. Let's do this again soon.